Hi everyone, my name is Seb Royce and I'm co-founder of Kindeo and also ECD at Gravity Road. I think it's kind of interesting to be here because there are a lot of creative people in the industry doing side hustles, and sometimes those side hustles turn it into more than just a side hustle, and that's what's happened with Kindeo. I'll just give you a brief overview of what Kindeo is, and then we're going to kind of have a little bit of a chat afterwards. This is a picture of my dad, 65 years apart, and there he is with my son Sam on the right. I didn't really know my dad until last year. I mean, I knew who he was, obviously, but I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know about his history, about the events that shaped his life, any of our family histories, the things that he did when he was younger. And I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't alone in that. 68% of us admit having a very limited knowledge of our parents' life story. And the thing is, you don't even realize it's an issue until you can't do anything about it. 77% of us who've lost a relative or a close friend regret not having asked them more about their lives. And that matters, you know, especially for older people, because the wisdom and knowledge and memories and stories of a whole generation are being lost, and we're all poorer for it. And it's a problem that needs solving and one that Kindeo is looking to address. So Kindeo is a private storytelling platform for your parents or grandparents to share their life story with your family. If you imagine Kindeo as a personal biographer that sits at the heart of a family and helps parents and grandparents tell their story and share them with the rest of the family, they can also ask their own questions, turning it into a kind of collaborative project so that the stories are then saved in perpetuity for different generations of your family. So Kindeo launched last year. There's about 6,500 families now using it and feeding back on it, and are really engaged in the platform, which is great. So there is lots of different ways into Kindeo. People start using it for different reasons. We started using it with Dad because he wasn't very well, but there are other people who use it because they reach milestone birthdays and start reflecting on life a bit, 50, 60, 70, 80, more. Some people get into Kindeo because they're into genealogy and family history. Others get into it because they've had a life-limiting illness or there are certain issues in their life. Dad had a whole box, I mean thousands of boxes, like all of us do, of old photos. And what he did with Kindeo is he took those old photos, he turned his camera on them, and he started narrating over the top of the photos to give them extra kind of meaning. And those are really powerful now. All of those photos have a kind of deeper resonance with us, and he's now got them on his Kindeo, on the platform, so that my kids will be able to understand a lot more about his life, which I think is pretty cool. The name Kindeo is an amalgamation of kin, as in family, and video. It took us a really, really long time to come up with that. Trying to name your business, as anyone knows, is a very difficult thing to do. The video bit was interesting because video is such a powerful storytelling medium, but we realized pretty quickly that for older people, it's quite scary to be on camera. So actually now on the platform, people can write in text, they can upload old photos, and they can record video. And next week, they'll be able to transcribe their voice as well, so it makes it super easy to access. Ironically, for someone who works in advertising, we haven't had any money to be able to do any advertising yet. So all of our growth has been kind of organic and word of mouth. We do like this line, though, of the gift of a lifetime, because it kind of sums up what Kindeo is about, a whole lifetime worth of memories and stories and advice that people can pass on. I'm going to whip through next, and I haven't got loads of time.
Kindeo helps parents and grandparents to document and share their life stories with their family. It's a digital biographer that helps to turn photos, videos, and text into beautifully presented memories, celebrating all aspects of life, from childhood to the present day. Storytelling is made easy with our simple story builder. Start with a blank template or explore our story suggestions full of guidance and inspiration. Kindeo is a collaborative project where invited family members can view their stories or ask their own questions. Kindeo soon grows into a wonderful private autobiography, full of memories that the whole family can access and enjoy forever. For those just starting their journey, Kindeo will become an invaluable resource for them as they grow up. Invite someone you love to share the story of their life and help inspire the next generations of your family. Kindeo, the gift of a lifetime.
Excuse the Apple stock music there that's over the top of that, but you kind of get the idea. So we've had a really nice pickup on it now. I'm going to flick through there. The way it works is that you invite a family member, they get a personalised invite. They can then go onto the Story Builder site. Well, they're going to go back. They go onto their own Story Builder site. If you ask someone to tell the life story, they can't do it. But if you give them chapters and prompts and ways in, then it's much easier for them to start talking about it, which is great. And as I said, there's loads of different ways of doing that. Next week, they'll be able to do it just using their voice and transcribing it, which will be amazing. And I'm just going to flick through again because I know we're short of time. Family can get involved. You can view Kindeo on any platform for free if you're an invited family member. And so there's a really nice feedback loop, and it carries on growing and turns into a really valuable digital resource. We've just had a really big update today. If you go on kindeo.com now, you can invite a family member and you get a free £10 way into the app. It's a one-off payment. There's no subscriptions. It gives you the ability to tell 10 stories. And once the stories are starting to be told, you'll find that parents and grandparents kind of pick it up really quickly. You can also give them some starter questions to get them going, which makes it much easier for them. Thanks very much.
Great. Great presentation. I love it. And it seems, I mean, going back to your original point of like the importance of storing data for next generations, I think this comes at quite an interesting time in the wake of MySpace's loss of data. They lost 12 years worth of data at the beginning of this week, right?
Yes, they did, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, in fact, that's been a really interesting part of also designing for older people as well. Obviously there's a massive trust issue and privacy issue when you're talking about data and people's personal lives, especially this type of thing. So we have spent the last 2 years almost, since the beginning of the development, focusing very much on making the platform as robust as it possibly can be. All the videos are encrypted. The security is as high as it possibly can be. The content's all on Amazon Web Servers as well, so it's automatically updated, so it doesn't degrade or just disappear, and you can download your content and just get rid of it at any time if you want to.
Fantastic. So looking at it at like a fundamental level, like why do you think people have that desire to pass information down and knowledge down?
I think it's kind of one of the purposes in life. You know, we need to learn from the generation that came before us, otherwise we didn't go anywhere. And I think it gives people a sense of self as well, knowing where you've come from, knowing about your history and your recent history, not just your past history, not just your DNA, but your parents. We do a funny thing, you know, when people become parents or grandparents, we kind of write off a lot of the life that they had beforehand. And these were the actors and doctors and musicians and advertising people, you know, who did kind of amazing things. And when we can learn from the stuff they went through as well.
For the demographic that you're trying to focus on, I mean, I noticed in the presentation you spoke about the prompts and the way to help people engage with the product. How much of a consideration has that aspect been in creating it?
Massive. I think that when we went into it, we didn't realize quite how big a disparity there was between the tech ability of older people. I mean, I think that, again, you tend to write older people off as, well, you know, they know big buttons and it needs to be super, super simple. But they want the same thing that any other age group does, which is for an interface to be super intuitive and simple and clean. But there is a big, big discrepancy in how some of them use it. My dad is quite technical. My mum has a mouse mat and phoned me to ask whether she could get a bigger one because the little arrow thing was only halfway across the screen and she reached the end of it. So there's quite a big discrepancy on that. But we've factored all that in. I think we've got a nice balance now.
It's a difficult concept, designing for lots of people, industrial design. Like I hear all the time people complaining about how their AirPods fall out, for example, whereas like mine stay in. And no, I mean, to your point of like the difference in technological abilities, I spoke to someone yesterday who said that they swiped a piece of paper.
Right. And that happens, you know.
It does happen, yeah. No, go on.
Sorry, and actually, because we used to be an iPad app, Kindeo, when it first started. A lot of older people were using iPads because the screens are slightly bigger and there was a penetration there, and we could design for iOS, but it's now a web platform, which means it's accessible on any kind of device, and it's agnostic, and that has been really useful as well for accessibility.
What's your advice to entrepreneurs on the idea of product market fit?
Wow. To try and achieve it as quickly as you can, you've got to talk to people. You've got to go out there and talk to people and not do too much developing before you do that. You can we've wasted a lot of time and money by trying to get everything right and not going to market early enough. Once you've gone out there, some of your assumptions just get thrown out the window and you're back to the drawing board again. I think video is the classic one. So powerful, but just a bit too far for some people to start with, a great thing to migrate to. If we'd just gone out in day 2 and asked someone that, we would have saved ourselves a lot of time.
So you're suggesting start with hypotheses, but don't be afraid for them to.
It doesn't matter if they go. You know, you will discard so many of the beliefs and thoughts and designs that you have at the beginning, but you'll get to the right place quicker.
Fantastic, and obviously an audience of advertisers and marketers and brands. Do you have any message that you'd like to share with them?
Well, get on board, support us. I'm kind of very lucky at Gravity Road. There's a lot of support there and a lot of good people who kind of believe in the idea as well. So I'm in a kind of privileged position for that. I think also, you know, as I said at the beginning, lots of creative people have side hustles, and I think that progressive agencies and progressive creative companies support those side hustles, and I think that helps with general creativity. I think it's really good to think in a slightly different way than just about campaigns and briefs kind of all the time. So, yeah.
It's fantastic that you can work in a place that you know it's set up culturally to allow that. I think you see. I mean, I've spoken to a few people this week who, you know, I spoke to a guy called Jason Miller from Microsoft, and he was talking about how his side hustle is that he's a, you know, he takes photographs. You know, like goes to 5 or 6 concerts a week, and that's his avenue.
I think it's super important, and it adds to the rich creativity of the culture there. And we've got a program at Gravity Road called Grow, where everyone brings in their side hustles and they talk to everyone about it, and it's a genuine thing. People are genuinely doing it. It's not just lip service, and that's hugely important, I think, for keeping people engaged, keeping people retained, and keeping people, really creative people, working in the industry. And at the moment, that's what we want. We want to retain really good people. We want to allow them to express themselves creatively in lots of different ways.
That's important, rather than just building a brick wall between the creative outlets and the stuff that's being done every day.
Absolutely.
Sure. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.